On October the 8th, 1862, at 3 in the afternoon in a year devoid of rain, started the Perryville Confederate Regiment against the Union officers. Known as the Battle of Chaplain Hills, it would later be known as the Battle of Perryville. That day would begin the largest battle fought in Kentucky and one of the bloodiest battles in the Civil War. Confederate General Braxton Bragg launched an invasion of the key border state of Kentucky, hoping to divert Union attention from the southern strongholds at Vicksburg and Chattanooga, as well as to encourage bluegrass state volunteers to join the rebel army. The Kentucky campaign did draw federal forces out of northern Alabama and Middle Tennessee, ground it would take the Union almost a year to regain. In the autumn of 1862, the upper southwest of the Appalachians and Midwest were locked in the worst drought in memory. Both armies had marched north into Kentucky absolutely desperate for water, and as a result the men were both dehydrated and sick due to the microbes they had ingested by drinking anything wet. Good water was a prize. On October 7, when Bragg directed Confederate General Leonidas Polk to stop and eliminate the pursuing federal threat, he reunited his force in Perryville, taking tactical advantage of the hills west of town, but also guarding a series of springs as well as the puddles in the bed of the Chaplain River. During the battle, the Confederates held an early advantage that they were able to exploit due to lack of communication among various elements of the Union force. Eventually reinforced on the left of their line, the Federal troops held their ground and pushed some of their attackers back into the town of Perryville itself. Confronted by a larger force and running low on supplies, Bragg withdrew toward the Cumberland Gap. His army would never return to Kentucky. In both sides, casualties totaled 1/5 of those involved. Private Sam Watkins, of the 1st Tennessee, was quoted, "The guns were discharged so rapidly that it seemed the earth itself was in a volcanic uproar. The iron storm passed through our ranks, mangling and tearing men to pieces. The very air seemed full of stifling smoke and fire, which seemed the very pit of hell, peopled by contending demons." Perryville's homes and farms were left in shambles by the battle. Henry P. Squire Bottom, a slave-owning Unionist on whose farm a significant portion of the battle was fought, suffered losses of pork, corn, hay, and wood to Union soldiers who remained in the area for weeks after the fighting. During the battle, Bottom also had significant damage to his farm, including the loss of a substantial barn filled with hay that burned completely due to artillery fire from a Confederate battery. Other accounts note that nearly all residents of the area suffered some losses as well as having their homes and outbuildings used as field hospitals. Union soldiers finally forced local residents to help them lay the dead in shallow trenches carved in the dry soil. With the help of Bottom, his slaves, and his neighbors, and 2 months later, 347 were reburied in a mass grave on Bottom's land. In 1886, a total of 435 Confederates were buried on Bottom's land. This land was chosen because their dead lay thickest on the eastern slope. Although Bottom claimed that about 100 were identified, the only remnants of the cemetery were a corner of a stone wall and one headstone, that of Samuel H. Ransom of the 1st Tennessee Infantry CS8. Famous Confederate diarist Sam Watkins said of Perryville that "I was in every battle, skirmish and march that was made by the 1st Tennessee Regiment during that war, and I do not remember of a harder contest and more evenly fought battle than that of Perryville." At Perryville, Watkins would find that both his hat and cartridge box had been holed by enemy fire, making him one of the lucky ones. The horrors of Perryville were most severely felt by the 22nd Indiana Infantry. A former member of the regiment noted that on calling the roll at 8 o'clock that night, to nearly every other name in the regiment there was no answer. They had Leonidas Polk to thank for the silence.